Well, I guess we can get started. What do you think? Should we wait a couple
Let's do it.
minutes?
Yeah, let's get going. I'm sure people
Fantastic.
will arrive as they go here.
Brilliant. No, guys, everyone, thank you so much for joining the webinar. Just on our, it's an Approval Max with Intuit with QuickBooks Online webinar, specializing on construction companies and how we can benefit them in their in their approval processes, in their financial controls. It's in terms of an agenda. We're going to have a quick introduction. We're going to look at the common challenges in construction with regards to the approval process, how to actually improve that accounts payable control and the collaboration involved in those processes. We're going to go at have a look at a quick case study from one of our ApprovalMax customers, and then we're going to go through some features on how exactly we can help you guys. So just some housekeeping, guys. There's for everybody watching, there's a resources tab where there's additional information, PDFs. It will be sent out to you. The webinar will be sent out afterwards to your email, so you're able to access there. We want it to be as interactive as possible, so there is a Q&A section that I will be looking at, and we will try to keep an eye out as much as possible to answer your questions live. And if we can't do it live, we'll get back to you via email as well. So please feel free to drop any questions there. And there is closed captioning, so you can use those CC buttons. But in terms of myself, my name is Jonathan Kiritsis. I'm the head of sales for the North American market for ApprovalMax. And I'm joined by someone who requires no introduction, Helena Patience. But if you could maybe give us a few words for yourself on an introduction.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And welcome, everyone. Delighted to have you join us today. I hope this webinar proves to be helpful, gives you some tips and tricks to help you with your construction businesses or clients, whichever it is for you. So I am I'm the CEO of Entreflow Consulting Group, and we are a Canadian-based CPA firm and licensed recruitment agency. And we work with growing companies all across the country and as well internationally to help them to grow and expand their businesses as beautifully as possible and as organized as possible. So we use a lot of technology. We were 100% cloud, 100% remote firm in 2015 and have really leveraged technology to help us to automate our clients' workflows. And so when we found ApprovalMax, it was amazing because it was helping a lot of our clients with really complicated approval structures and workflows. And also we've been using QuickBooks Online since 2015 as well. So I love the two products. It's great to be here to chat with and about these two products today. So thank you and welcome everyone.
That's fantastic. And it's really nice to have your perspective because I work a lot with direct companies, companies that, internal finance departments, internal accounting teams that want to
Mhm.
implement Approval Max. And so I'm quite familiar with their challenges, but it's also nice to see from your perspective, which is from an external consulting point of view, an external finance services point of view, and the challenges that arise, from your side and
Mhm.
how Approval Max can actually help benefit those clients.
For sure.
Brilliant. Guys, we're going to just start with a quick poll. And that's what's the biggest challenges your team faces with approvals and budget management? Now, again, these are fairly standard, so feel free to pick the most challenging one. I'm sure there are a couple that people have troubles with. So that's bill and receipt management, lack of visibility into project spend, difficulty staying within budget, compliance and audit issues, delays due to manual approval processes. Helena, which is your biggest pet peeve of the
For
bunch?
for the construction industry, it's probably that bill and receipt management because it makes it very tricky for us to close the books when there's receipts all over, a lot of expense reimbursements that can come up in construction. It's really important to be able to track those budgets, and if we can't figure out, where to allocate those expenses, it can get really tricky to be able to give that real-time insight. Construction companies need to know how things are going very regularly. You can't look at financials 2 months later. The project's probably close to done at that point, if not already. So depending on the business. So having that real-time understanding of what's happening on those projects is absolutely crucial for maintaining the profitability.
And that's probably for construction businesses of all sizes as well.
For
The
sure.
challenges
Yeah.
might be slightly different for the larger versus the smaller ones, but I think they can both benefit from having that information readily available for them. And I think just as you predicted, bill and receipt management is the number one choice for everyone. So that's exciting. It's one of the main uh, things that we solve within ApprovalMax, quite a recent features that have been added to actually
Yeah.
help to that. So yeah, very exciting to see
I,
that. And
I would,
delays due to manual approval processes. I
that would have been my
mean,
second choice as well. So
oh, I mean, I love to see it from a sales perspective. That's where ApprovalMax it starts to shine, is in that automation of approval processes. So I'm glad to see that there's some challenges that we can very readily solve here with ApprovalMax. So how do we solve these challenges then? Just to give you guys a quick breakdown with regards to ApprovalMax. Now, with regard to bill and receipt management, ApprovalMax has we have our mobile apps, Android and iOS, and we've got our capture technology, our receipt capture. So this is absolutely fantastic in that, if you actually go out to buy your resources, you're going to go to a shop to buy some things, you can immediately capture that receipt using ApprovalMax Capture. An AP person can easily drag and drop a PDF file into ApprovalMax. And then finally, we do have an AP mailbox. So it's very, very streamlined to actually get your bills into the system. Now, then if you've got delays due to your manual approval processes, ApprovalMax is your best friend here. We can solve all these issues because we automate these processes, but we also allow flexibility with how people can approve these documents. You can approve it from your email, you can approve it from your mobile apps, and you can go into the system, into ApprovalMax on our website and see all details with regards to where a document is, where the document is being held up. Should we nudge the approver to remind them that something is something needs their approval, something is bottlenecked in the process. So it's all I mean, ApprovalMax is on, I guess, two pillars. On the one side, it's automation, and on the other side, it's financial controls. And so it's a really nice balance between features that we have there to ensure that, yes, we make everything as quick as possible. We eliminate those bottlenecks. We make things efficient. But at the same time, again, approvals are all about financial controls. It's about reducing fraud. It's about ensuring an easy audit process. And that's why, so many businesses have trusted ApprovalMax with their QBO integration and their approval processes. Lack of visibility into your project spend. So this is one of our key construction features. It's our bill to PO management. And so we've got three-way matching with ApprovalMax to ensure that the price that the supplier charged you on the purchase order is the same price that came through on the bill, and that 100% of the product actually arrived in quantity with our goods received note. Now, all of this information gets attached into QuickBooks Online. It's going to be your source of truth. So you don't have to go into ApprovalMax. You don't need to be familiar. Everybody on the team doesn't need to be familiar with all different applications. Everything is there in in QuickBooks Online, attached with our audit trail. Difficulty staying in budget. I love this feature. It was one of our highest voted features last year in 2024, and it's our budget checking feature. So if you make use of budgets in QuickBooks Online, we will pull those budgets into the approval process, so that when someone is submitting a bill or approving a bill, approving a purchase order, they're able to see exactly where they are for that specific project on the budget. So they can see how much is left, they can approve the bill, they can see what the change and what the remaining amounts are going to be. So you've got full transparency of that project. You don't need to be contacting the person that's working QBO to ask how much is left on the budget. You don't have to set up the reports to go through there. Every time something relates to that budget that you need to get approved and get thrown over, you're going to be able to do that. And then finally, it's compliance and audit issues. So like I said, everything that gets approved has an audit trail in ApprovalMax. That audit trail then gets attached into QuickBooks Online. So you'll have full visibility, full transparency of everything that's happened with regards to your transactions. And then we can create nice reports for this as well. Project-based reports, personnel-based reports. So you can have know exactly where everything stands in the process. Alina, do you, I mean, I imagine all of these challenges have come up to you at
At
some
some
point.
point in time, yes.
But
No,
like I said, again, maybe you've got a pet peeve with bill receipt management. You've got a bit of a story you'd like to share in that regard.
I have a lot of pet peeves as an accountant. Um, no, it's tricky. Construction industry is very difficult, right? You don't have, key people sitting at desks all day long, free and able to send us receipts and respond to questions and things like that, right? So we're always navigating around schedules. Oftentimes our clients are doing a lot of the administrative work that we need their help with late at night when they're tired after they've been on site all day. Something's happened. There's, some catastrophe happens every other day. So it's a very difficult industry. And I'm super empathetic to that. And so we have to try to figure out how to make though our relationship work so that we're hassling them as little as possible and we're making their lives as easy as possible, not adding more stress to the work that they already have to manage, right? So the bill and receipt management has always been a challenge. We've been using receipt captures for years. I was super excited to see that functionality come into ApprovalMax because it's so logical. Now we've got one place for all the receipts and bills to go to for everyone on the team. It can, and then it goes through the approval process where it needs to. Um, in the past, we'd have clients that, for expense reimbursements, for instance, we might have had a team member that had to go grab something quickly for a job and they didn't have a corporate credit card, so they had to get it reimbursed. And, they're living paycheck to paycheck or what have you. And, the expense reimbursement process would take sometimes up to a month because you'd have the receipt that would somehow have to get back to the office to somebody that would then, they'd have to complete a spreadsheet and print that off and had to go through a couple different people. Then it would get onto the next payroll cycle. And so, it was really frustrating for the employees because,
Yes,
they're
you could
doing their
say that,
best to
yeah.
just help solve a problem, and then it's actually impacting them personally, like financially, right? And the people who are paid the less, who don't really have as much leeway there. Having ApprovalMax in place, we were able to take, a month-long disorganized hair like pulling process and bring that down to like 2 days. So, move them out of paying their expense reimbursements through the payroll cycle and have it through a weekly AP run instead would likely shorten the time by at least a week because now we're doing it every week. It's
Yeah.
a lot easier to track. And for those of you who are familiar with this kind of process, having expense reimbursements go through the payroll journals can often lead to some fun messes in the future. But yeah, so just moving that into an AP process and making it easy for the employees to just snap a picture, get it into the system, get it send off for approval, and get that to the correct people, and make it easy for them to actually give us the information about what project it's related to. So rather than them having to like scribble something on a receipt that is illegible, and I've
Yeah.
probably got the worst chicken scratch of anybody out there, worse than a doctor. So, I don't blame people, but it's a lot easier if they can just select something in a system. We're getting higher quality data, we're getting the data faster, and people are getting reimbursed faster. So, it's night and day experience. It's a much nicer experience for the employees, and we forget about this, but it not only is this making the business owner's life a lot easier, and I talked about some of the pains we throw at them with the needs that we have, but also just helping their employees' experience at work be a lot better it makes is a lot nicer for them and better retention through
Yeah,
that.
because I
So
mean, the alternative is someone's going to suffer. Either the
yeah,
business is going to have to relax their financial controls in order to pay things out faster, or the finance team is going to have to, work every day on these reimbursements as opposed to having a more organized schedule where they can just control everything just to get them out faster.
for sure.
But yeah, so it helps. It really does help on all sides.
For sure. And I think the knee-jerk reaction for a lot of companies is to get corporate cards out to a lot of different people. They're then sharing it between people, and then now we're chasing receipts and we don't know who actually did that transaction. So it just the controls go out the window. Sometimes the
Yeah.
credit cards go out the window because they lose them. You know what I mean? It makes it very messy. The other thing that I wanted to share too. Is so that I talked about expense reimbursements, but the other thing that comes up often is, when the crews do have a corporate credit card or an account. So say maybe they're going to Rona or Home Depot for some supplies and they have things on account, getting that documentation to the team to make sure that we can track the where those expenses need to go to can also be really challenging. So, giving them an app where they can take a picture or an email address that they can forward things to really quickly makes it a lot easier for us to be able to track, what are these things that are coming in? Is this all appropriate? Are these going to the right bucket, the right projects, so that we can keep on top of those budgets? Because what stresses the business owners out is the profitability of their budgets, their projects. So, and they generally are very intuitive and have like a mental tracker of how it's going, but they're often surprised too. So, things can happen that can set things off course. So being able to have that data for them on a weekly basis to see how that's tracking makes a huge difference in helping them to manage those existing budgets, but also helping them to make sure that when they're quoting for their next job, that they're doing a better job. So if they're quoting a job that's similar to one that's going on right now, that's going way over, then they know, okay, we need to add more budget to this and make sure we're making more money. So these little things, like I said, there's the employee experience from that expense reimbursement workflow on the budgeting side. That's profit, that's cash in the business owner's pocket that they wouldn't necessarily have if they didn't have access to that data to make better decisions. So.
Yeah, and it's QBO has all these fantastic features, customers, projects that allow you to track where every expense is going to. But unfortunately, if it just stays within QuickBooks Online, it's not the people making the purchases, the people on the ground that understand how these projects are going, that can then see the budget, can then say in the future, okay, we're working on this project now. I've seen
Yeah.
that it's gone over for this and this reason. I know that this next project is going to be slightly higher. But now with ApprovalMax and that budget checking feature, that's allocated to specific projects. When these project managers on the ground, on location, are busy submitting bills, they're able to have a much better connection
For sure.
with the project as a whole,
Right. Well, because
or at
the
least the
the
finances.
managers approving can see the budget in real time. They don't have to wait to the end of the month to get a budget to actuals report. They can actually see it real time, which is
Yeah,
amazing, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool.
So, I mean, again, we've touched on quite a few of these points already,
Hmm.
but maybe you want to break down your favorites.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the data entry is not my favorite thing to do. I used to be an analyst, and so human error scares me. And I do everything I can to automate data entry as much as possible because then we'll have higher quality data. So our role as accountants now is more of a data validation rather than data entry
Yes,
responsibility. So we have a lot of tools that will obviously read the receipts and then do the data entry for us, as you know. And so making sure that we're validating that and ensuring that it's accurate is important. But there's still a lot of companies out there that are manually doing their data entry, manually entering bills, manually entering receipts,
of course.
maybe
Well, you have
waiting
to
for
start somewhere.
you gotta you gotta start somewhere, but it's time consuming. So that's one a common challenge there. Chasing approvals we talked about already. Missed bill deadline. So you can imagine just if you've got a lot of I guess one of the challenges of the construction industry is you can have data coming from so many different people depending on what's happening, right? So in a more simple company, you might have, you know, maybe a specific email address where all the vendors send their bills to, or an address where all the letters go to, or whatever. In the construction industry, you've got a lot of stuff happening real time, live out in the streets, but with lots of different people. And so data's coming from so many different places. You might have vendors who are happy to give you a bill. So, the accounting team wouldn't know that anything happened. Somebody's got materials and has a piece of paper to back that up. Okay. It hasn't hit a bank account. We don't know it exists. If we don't get that, we can't pay it, right? So we might have in a sense of, from the budgets where we're supposed to be from a dollar perspective, where we might know like, oh, they're going to go purchase a whole bunch of equipment next week. So we should see some bills coming in, but we wouldn't know if a bill was getting sent
No,
to
of
us,
course.
right? So, making it as easy as possible for all of these people to get us the information helps to make sure that we're getting those bills paid on time because a lot of companies in the vendors in the construction industry will give you those early payment discounts or have fines if you're paying late, and you want to avoid that, or you want to if they're uh, charging credit cards at certain days of the month or whatever automatically. You need to know what's coming off the credit card so that you can make sure that you've got enough float there. So that's super
That's
key.
what I was going to say. It's about managing your cash flow as
It's
well,
managing your
right?
cash
Because
flow for
you know,
sure.
if bills have been missing and all of a sudden you get 3, 4, 5 weeks worth of bills at the same time, it's really going to impact your decision making. Or
For sure. And then on the human error side too, like we talked about human error from a data perspective, but purchasing can be wrong. So they may, the team may have gone to go buy something and it was completely wrong. And, we sometimes have a certain limited time to go return it or to raise it or whatever. And so, being able to get access to that information and deal with any issues that come up right away is super, super important. Um,
exactly, and to know where the errors were made. Was it
mhm,
made by someone on the team? Was it made by the supplier where you asked for something on the purchase order, but something else arrived on the bill, and you need to now go and argue this without having a proper audit trail of what was actually done. So it absolutely, I mean, having the manual process in place just makes all this exponentially more complicated.
for sure. And I have a client where bills will come in, or they used to. We've cracked down on this, but for a long time we were getting bills for like months previous, right? So we'd close the financials, we'd look at the reports, we'd see how the profitability landed, and then we get a whole bunch of bills that threw the numbers off. And so you're like
Yeah.
looking at the year-to-date numbers all the time, and they're constantly shifting and changing, and it's just frustrating for everybody because we want to know how we're doing, and then we have all these swings happening. So, just making it as easy as possible for things to be real time. It just has a lot of massive benefits for people. So those are some of the common challenges. There's a couple of gray hairs from them over the years, but yeah.
No, I mean from like I deal with a lot of construction clients, like I said, directly coming in to use ApprovalMax, and I'm the sizes of those companies range from just being, a sole owner with his team of 20, 30 people, building small construction projects to large property development firms with 50 ongoing projects, all of different sizes. But the problems that they have are almost exactly the same. The scale is slightly different. There might be a few more zeros that go there. But I mean, if even if it's a small company, you know, those gray hairs still come. They're still going to be there for the sole owner as just as it is for the major shareholders of a large property development company.
For sure, for sure.
Guys, we've got a second poll here, and we just want to understand you guys a little bit better. So how would you describe your current approval processes? So are they fully automated and streamlined, some automation, but still reliant on spreadsheets and emails, mostly manual with a little automation, and we're just getting started with formal processes? There should have been another one. It's how much you use Excel during your approval processes, I think would have been interesting as well. Where do you think we're gonna lie with the majority of
Oh,
people? I imagine some automation.
um, yeah, I would say probably about some. Oh, yeah, there we go. 40%.
Yeah. Some, but others were still just getting started with formal
Yeah.
processes. Um,
I will say
I'm
with
not
the
surprised.
with the I think the one thing that kind of holds people back from going fully automated is the expense reimbursement piece because we don't always have documents for things that need to get reimbursed. I think the thing that people get stuck on is the per diems and the mileage because you need to come up with a mechanism to have a piece of paper for that. So um, I can say though that I've happily automated that whole process with a lot of people by having just some standard documents that people can use and then upload. But with that's usually the one thing that people get hung up on with getting rid of the paper piece fully is that expense reimbursement piece with the non-receipted items, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but with the per diems and the mileage where they don't have a document to prove it, but they have to
Yeah.
create a document in order to get that done. And
Yeah,
we've created like
travel a
forms
lot
where,
with approval. So I'm familiar.
yeah, you've traveled before with ApprovalMax, you get it. So how do you normally manage that in ApprovalMax then?
It's more complicated than I'd like to admit.
Sorry to put you on the
But
spot.
no, we do. Again, we make use of all ApprovalMax features through
Yeah,
our standalone workflows that we have, and then I mean the reimbursements running directly through ApprovalMax as well. So
that's good.
it's I mean it's very easy. Once you make use of all of our features, if you get onto our premium plan, we have our standalone workflows
Yeah.
that can easily manage these travel requests and any type of workflow that you want to run through the system. It's absolutely fantastic. So it can get complicated. I mean, we're a large organization with regards to how many events we're traveling to all around the world all the time. And so, I mean, and Approval Max works perfectly for us. I'm sure for other purposes, it can be uh, much better as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised to see none fully automated and streamlined yet, though. So hopefully,
That's the right
after you
webinar then.
you're going to get inspired and you're going to get everything fully automated and easy running. So guys, just now we're going to look at a quick case study from one of our Approval Max clients. So the client is the BMI Group. So they're a large property development company. Before using Approval Max, they had quite a complicated approval process with multiple people involved in that approval process. And because they were doing everything via email, it was very common for things maybe not to get lost, but to require, searching to go through email boxes to find them, to maybe get them reapproved just to speed along that process. And I think what is also an interesting quirk with the BMI Group is that each of their projects that they had its own QuickBooks Online entity, because each project is going to have its own shareholders and own investors for that specific building, and so they needed its own entity. So what was really nice with Approval Max is that we were able to create, you have your one account, and in your own account, you can see all the different projects or all the different QuickBooks Online entities that your company is busy working on, and set up specific approval processes for those projects. So at each time, each document is going to the right person, each document has its own approval process, and then again, the one source of truth remains QuickBooks Online, in that every document from every project that's gone through an approval process gets created into QuickBooks Online with that audit trail. And that really, I think, is the key for most businesses, is that on the transaction level in QuickBooks Online, it's attached our audit trail, it's attached the initial invoices, it's attached any other supporting documentation that you might have had during the process, and it's all there ready at your fingertips for audit purposes, or simply for information to see, why is this bill this amount? Was it matched to a purchase order? Is it the right amount with regards to that purchase order? All that information is exactly there. The best thing about this, even though I think the BMI Group had over 50 ongoing projects, so 50 QuickBooks Online entities, we were actually able to get them online within a week. So
Wow.
the amount of change you get in such a short period of time, and value you gain is just enormous once you just embrace automation, embrace technology, and believe that your people are capable in doing so. That's one of the biggest I guess pushbacks I get in the construction industries when new clients are approaching and want to start automating their processes, is like, you know, we're doing things, they're set in their ways. They've got their Excel documents with their purchase orders. They don't use QuickBooks Online for their purchase orders yet. They've just got, QBO, I think it's Essential, that doesn't have purchase orders yet. And then once the bill comes in, they manually match it to the right purchase order in their Excel sheets, and then manually attach that Excel documentation into QuickBooks Online. And they're so used to this process, they've probably been doing it for decades
Yeah.
by this point. But again, gray hairs, right? That's really what we're trying to take away. So once they get ApprovalMax going, it all just becomes so much easier, so much streamlined. And what I would recommend, I guess, is the biggest time we see companies implementing this is during times of change, when there's new
Yeah.
leadership coming in, a new CFO. I recommend not waiting till that point.
Mhm.
Just because, again, it's reduce the stress, increase your financial controls, and instead of doing this manual AP work for a lot of your employees, now you can have them doing value added work. You can actually what they were hired to do, as opposed to I don't want to say busy work, but yes.
I think that a lot of people assume that that change, then the change management is going to be very heavy. A lot of people feel already overwhelmed in their roles that they don't have time to take on new projects, right? And so the concern is that, okay, we could do this, but then we don't really have the time to do it right now. We don't, the staff doesn't have time to learn it. We've been able to get our clients up on Approval Max like very quickly, like you said, in a week. And people love it because the current processes are cumbersome and a waste of time for the employee. So it's not only just the people who have to process the approvals, but the rest of the team's time that's really wasted in manual processes. And I feel like a lot of people, if they've been using the same software for a really long time, their idea is that moving to a new software is going to take a long time to learn and get up and running, and that they don't have time for that. With Approval
Yeah.
Max, it's kind of a no-brainer. The time savings is instant, and it's a lot, not just the administrator's job time, but the rest of the team's time that's saved. And what people don't think about um, in their current process is time waste is the chasing time. So going around and chasing people for this and having to keep track of where's this document and its approval. I mean, I had clients who had stacks of paperwork that would move around the head office of the construction company. Excuse me. And they'd have to keep track of like stack numbers and where the stack was sitting and when they were, when they had to go chase those people and then go chase those people. All that busy work is gone away with notifications. You know what I mean? Like you
It's
can,
basically gone, and I think that's you're kind of hitting the nail on the head, construction industry, but it's that their current processes are cumbersome, so and complicated, and so they
complicated.
think that the new processes are going to be, although there's automation and time savings and efficiency, blah blah blah, they think it's also going to be complicated to get going as well.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
it's not.
it's really not, and it's I mean, again, we got 50 entities online within a week. If you're a smaller construction company with just one entity and 20, 30, 40 employees, it's
Mhm,
a half an hour setup
for
call,
sure. And I
right?
think the
It's
other,
really that quick.
yeah, and sorry to interrupt you there. I think the other pushback that we get before people actually see and use the tool is that their businesses are snowflakes with these complicated workflow processes that no system could ever cope with, right? And what I love with Approval Max is we're able to prove people wrong over and over again and handle extremely complicated workflows. So, based on the account or the class or the project or the amount or who submitted it, we can send these receipts through very complicated workflows so that it can handle all the nuance. Because I think that's another pushback that people have is like, well, nobody's going to know that this thing has to go to these three people over here. And when you map out the logic, it's actually, you might have a lot of
It's actually
workflows.
quite funny you say that. It's so often during my onboarding calls with clients when I'm helping them get set up. They're like, no, we've got this person who's going to decide, based on the bill, who it's going to go to, right? Because there's no way we could possibly automate that process. And then I
Yeah,
love to actually, blow their mind when I show them, actually, we're going to create fantastic workflows where we're going to automate this entire process. This person doesn't even have to be involved in the approval. It's in the right documents or going to the right people without wasting anybody's time. And it's just that is the biggest value add for me, because they're there for the audit trails and to ensure that, they have all supporting documentation. But when we actually turn up to save them hours out of their week, hours out of their day,
just
we
triage
see the
these
smiles
documents.
on like the finance people's faces light
Yeah,
up essentially.
no, it's great. Great.
So right, guys, just getting into like ApprovalMax a little bit. So we do, of course, integrate with the fantastic QuickBooks Online. We make use of all their features that come out, or not all of them, but all the ones that relate to accounts payable and that make your lives easier on the QuickBooks Online side. We bring that all into ApprovalMax so they can benefit everybody within the company and can be use those features for automation purposes as well. We've got over 19,000 companies or customers, and we've been part of the QuickBooks Online ecosystem since 2017. So we are definitely veterans, I think, at this point of QuickBooks Online.
Gray hair just from age, right? Not just from the stress.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll say, on the API side, so obviously you have a really good integration with QuickBooks Online, which I appreciate. It makes it easy because you're pulling in the classes, the locations, the projects. So, whoever has that domain expertise on whatever that receipt is and what's happening there, and it can give us the information on where that needs to be classified if it's not obvious. Like I said, if you've got 10 different people going to Home Depot for 10 different projects throughout the week. I don't know where it needs to go, right? So if I had a crystal ball and if I could just guess properly, that would be awesome. But no, we need people to actually tell us
That's
what.
called ApprovalMax. No.
Okay, my expectations have gone up. I'd like to see this on the roadmap, please. Crystal balls. Uh,
Transparency, crystal balls. I think there's a lot of metaphor, the reasons that metaphor fits.
Anyhow, but yeah, just being able to indicate for people where the expense needs to go. No, we're not only managing the approval, but we're also managing the approval of where it's going to in the books throughout the process, if that makes sense, not just the financial approval. So that's really awesome. I think that tie in with the budget module in QuickBooks Online is awesome because it's really hard to be able to for the man. Like a lot of times the managers say, "Well, I'm approving it because it seems reasonable, but I don't know if it's within budget or not." And they might be able to go back and look at last month's budget and then kind of do a mental tally to see, okay, we might be on or off, but just having that deep integration to actually pull in because you could do a specific budget for each project and then see that
Exactly.
there.
I mean,
They
it's
can
been such a
actually,
huge change. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. A
So
benefit, I
there, I
should
think there's
say.
a lot of key features that you're pulling on that or that your the sorry API functionality that you're leaning into that makes the workflow really nice. And also just we have a lot of clients that have review engagements or audits, and being able to just give the auditors access to our clients' QuickBooks Online file, they can go and look at whatever they want in there. They can do their sampling and they can go straight to the transactions and they can see the attachments there. So they can not only see the attachment for the receipt and bill attachment, but also the approval workflow, which is great. So they can see, okay, are we following the process here? They can go into ApprovalMax and see the workflows and see, okay, here we've got some really clear structure on how these are getting approved and what the rules are, that they're not being broken, yada yada. So the auditors are usually super excited about what they see because it makes their job easy to get their work done. Aside from the fact that we've got really good financial controls and all the other good stuff, but as far as like the time they need to spend on audits, it's bringing the audit fees down because they're able to go and grab what they need to a lot easier without people going through filing cabinets or whatever and trying to find documents for them. So it's a small but very important feature when it comes to compliance at the end of the year.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, the transparency that's provided through ApprovalMax, it also helps the business owners kind of let go a little bit and
Mhm.
give out some responsibilities because they can now assign approvals to certain project managers and certain other executives within the company, knowing that there's a set approval process. At any point in time, they can go see what was approved and who approved it. There's no ifs or buts. It's all there. It's all in QuickBooks Online with this integration being your single source of truth. So
For
yeah,
sure.
it really it does make a huge difference there. But speaking of features and the integration, just a quick reminder on the big features that make a difference in the construction industry. So first of all, it's the auto entry, our ApprovalMax capture. You can email them directly to an AP email address. people can upload it, drag and drop it into ApprovalMax, and finally you can just take a picture with your mobile device and start that approval process right away. So it's not about collecting receipts and being organized and having them in that book, in that big folder, where later at some point in time in the future you're going to start scanning and sending things out. Not necessary anymore. Everything can be done on the spot, right? Like if it's an email comes in, drag and drop the PDF immediately, forward it to the accounts payable email. If you've got the hard bill, immediately take the picture. So you don't have to set things aside for later. You don't have to waste any time, and everything just becomes more efficient from the start, from capture until final payment of the bill itself. The next big feature, of course, is our bill to PO matching. So we make use of the purchase orders within QuickBooks Online. So every time a bill comes through during the approval process, during the bill creation, you can match this bill to that purchase order. So you can ensure that this was, what you're actually, what you budgeted for, what you planned for. So, not all companies or construction firms make use of budgets within QuickBooks Online. A lot of them use, say, purchase orders as mock budgets, where they'll take a large purchase order out with a company, with one of their suppliers, and then use that purchase order over a 6-month period, over the entirety of the project. And so you're able to do, with our matching of ApprovalMax, you're able to match multiple bills over a period of time, over an entire 6-month, 8-month project, year-long project, all those bills back to that purchase order. So you know exactly what you've planned for, what's coming through. Are they charging you the right amount? Are they giving you the right quantities? All that information is ensured once you have ApprovalMax in place. And then finally, for those making use of budgets and QuickBooks Online, it's our fantastic new 2024 released feature is our budget checking. So every time you're approving a bill, every time you're approving a purchase order, we'll import those budgets from QuickBooks Online. So depending on the project or the class, you can create bills using these categories. And then when the bill comes through and those selected customers are chosen, those projects are chosen, we'll show the budgets for those specific line items. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And of course, one bill can hit multiple different budgets. So you'll have multiple budgets showing up that you can compare each item to and know exactly where you're going to be lying for that month, for that quarter to date, or for that year to date budget that you've gone ahead and set up. Final poll, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to reveal the results of this one, but now, are you interested in learning more about ApprovalMax? So should you say yes, someone from our team will be reaching out just to see, just to offer you advice, give you a quick demo of the product itself, or just help get you set up. We do have a free 14-day trial, no credit cards required. You can go ahead, link your QuickBooks Online, create your workflow. If you don't want to tackle it yourself, one of our account executives would be happy to hold your hand throughout this entire process. All you have to know is how you want your bills to flow. Who's going to be the persons approving them? And then we set them up in the system for you. Like I said, we've gotten complicated projects up in a week. We've gotten normal companies up over a 20-minute Zoom call. So it's very simple. Don't be afraid to think that anything is, like you said, there's no snowflakes out there with regards to ApprovalMax in the construction industry. Everybody's problems can be solved using ApprovalMax. And so that's the end of our presentation. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. I see right now there is a question, and it's from Joe. And absolutely, we can you can enter deferred invoices in ApprovalMax, and we've got a fantastic on hold feature that can be used, so you can keep it in ApprovalMax. So yeah, absolutely you can, Joe. And again, if you're interested, feel free to reach out or say yes to the poll, and we can show you exactly how that works.
Any other questions?
I think, our confidence and how easy it is and how simple it is just got people just interested right away. They're gonna go sign up for the trial rather than ask their questions. We've got a fantastic team of account executives to answer your questions anyway, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you so much for your time. Please head to ApprovalMax.com just to learn more on how everything works. And last but not least, sign up for Intuit Connect. It's going to be from the 27th to the 29th this year in Las Vegas at the Aria. Approval Max will be there. So if you are interested, please come by. If you signed up by that point already, please come say hello anyway. We'll probably have some fantastic giveaways, goodies. I know last time we had
We
a
had
little
Stanley's last year. They were
tablet
very
note
good.
taker. Sorry?
We had Stanley's last year. They were really good.
Oh, right, the Stanleys. Yes. Oh, those are brilliant. I've actually got three of them that I that I took for
All
personal.
went. No,
No,
and
we'll
I've
have
been to
stuff. And the event itself, Into It Connect last year, was
amazing.
absolutely brilliant. So
Yeah. I've been to it, I think maybe 6 years since when it was back in San Jose before it went to Vegas. It's a fabulous conference. So many great app partners there, amazing breakout sessions. So if you haven't been, it's a good excuse to go to Las Vegas and obviously see some great shows and whatever else people get up to in Vegas. But yeah, it's a fabulous conference if you haven't been.
I'm always so surprised to see how collaborative it is there. You go, you
Yeah.
sit down for lunch, and everybody is always interested. What's your company? What are you doing? There's so much discussions going on just
Mhm.
uh, just around the event. It's absolutely incredible to
Yeah.
see.
It's very true. My husband, who's not an accountant, can't understand how the accounting industry is so like the cloud accounting industry is so collaborative. Like people will just call
Yeah,
each other up and ask them, "Hey, how are you solving this problem?" or "Have you had this happen before?" or what have you. And people are very willing to just help each other out and share advice and feedback. Whereas most industries, those are your trade secrets, and you're not telling your
exactly, right? Those are your
competitors how you
keys to
do things.
success.
Yeah, no, I think because it's a small but mighty community, the cloud accounting space, and so we're all it hasn't been around that long. We're kind of figuring things out, and there's so many awesome apps to use. So people like to ask other accountants, if they've used them. Oh, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, everyone as well. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions about the apps that we use at Entreflow too. We're very nerdy, lots of apps. I think we use probably about 30 or 40 apps on Entreflow throughout all of our clients. So probably seen most of them before. But yeah, it's a great place to connect with other folks in the space and pick their brain to help you solve your problems. And everyone's very willing to share and help out. So it's good relationship building. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very common for people to try to find their own solutions to problems, at least, especially, I mean, I studied finance as well, so I'm very in the point where if I don't know something, I'm going to figure it out myself.
Mhm.
But it's so impressive to see the level of collaboration, the way people do help each other out, and the way that the apps now have been fostered by Intuit, by QuickBooks Online to actually solve these problems. And that just the collaboration with Intuit and their partners is
Yeah.
always just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's fabulous. You don't see that everywhere, that's for sure.
No,
So
no, definitely
lovely.
not.
Okay, any last questions before we go here, folks? If you speak now or feel free to reach out after the fact, but I'll pass it over to Jonathan to close us up here.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, the presentation will be emailed over to everyone along with the resources that are in your resource tab. If you are interested, again, ApprovalMax.com, start our free trial integrated with QuickBooks Online with just a matter of clicks, and you're good to get going. But yeah, thanks everybody for your time. I hope you've benefited. I hope you've been inspired to tighten those financial controls, secure yourselves from fraud, and just automate and make things more efficient for everybody involved.
For sure. Thank you all for joining.
Brilliant.